Hi, fellow Transformers. This is Lindsay Kinman, and this is my recording for the response posting for Victoria, Miss Pierce, and Tiara. First of all, Victoria, thank you for doing a summary and clarifying some things on the Butts versus Economio case that we did in the homework reading also. So thank you for that. I enjoyed reading that post and actually going over those 4 specific topics that you included in there. I thought it was pretty interesting that even though after Arthur had supposedly criticized the Department of Agriculture, they went ahead and did an investigation and an administrative proceeding on him, even though technically he had stopped activities that would actually give them jurisdiction over his company in the first place. So that was quite weird and quite fishy in my mind. I also thought it was quite interesting how the Department of Agriculture would actually think that they would have absolute immunity for in this case, probably because they technically consider themselves a part of the executive branch, and because quasi-judicial officers and grand jurors and prosecutors are also part of the executive branch, and they have absolute immunity, so they think that they also have absolute immunity. But according to all the cases supporting it, they actually have qualified immunity, which is based on an actual case ruling where it's dependent on the case itself and the situation, whether or not you are actually granted immunity or not, hence the term qualified or not. I also thought it was very interesting that federal officials were seen as they shouldn't be able to enjoy such a higher level of protection versus those that of state officers when violating federal constitutional law. And I know that was one of your 4 points, so I thought that was pretty interesting. As for Miss Pierce, I thought your format was very easy to read and very organized, and I thought it was very interesting that you chose those 2 cases about the prosecutor going out of his bounds trying to find some way to find this boot print connected to some kind of evidence. I think he might have been a little bit too headstrong in trying to find this kid guilty. Blakely, I think it is. So that was kind of weird how he would go so far out of his way to lose his level of protection as a federal official trying to close this case. So it's very interesting how he would go that far and lose that immunity just for this one murder case. So kind of fishy also. As far as the private citizens claiming level of immunity, that was quite interesting, seeing that they were in private business. So that was also very interesting of where would they get that idea, since immunity is usually only for federal and state officials, which obviously they need the immunity in order to do their job correctly or appropriately without the worry of lawsuits or anything else getting in the way of doing their job. And Tiara, I thought the FTCA, that was very interesting as far as it regarding the unintentional or negligent torts regarding the U.S. Postal Service. And I wonder what kind of injury Barbara might have sustained to go through such lengths to make sure that this lawsuit would go through, challenging the FTCA and everything. I'm assuming it must have been pretty pricey to go through all these lengths to make sure it goes through with making sure that it was appealed and everything. But maybe she might have been easier to just go to the post office and say, hey, I'm just going to pick up my mail here. That way she doesn't have to worry about tripping over anything. That just seems kind of illogical that somebody would go to that straight lengths just for a lack of attention to detail and not looking where she's stepping. I mean, how hard is it to look down before you step outside your porch? But as far as the case goes, I do understand the whole broad definition. I know we talked about that a couple weeks ago of how broad the definitions in a statute can be, and how everything's up to interpretation. As in this case, the Superior Court was trying to interpret what negligent transmissions might be, and if this case was actually the exception or within that ruling. So that was actually a good example. But I believe transmission, what they might have meant is that the act that where the postman was actually delivering or transferring the property from the U.S. Postal Service's property and delivering it to the recipient, so that there's a transfer of well, you get what I mean, of ownership. Transfer of ownership. So I don't know, that just might be me, but I don't know how they translated it. And that concludes my responses, so I hope you enjoyed them, and I hope to talk to you guys soon. Go Broncos! Alright, I'll talk to you guys later.